hey, where are we going this weekend? As opposed to where she would want to go. She's like, where are you taking me? And then you throw her on your horse and ride off into the sunset. And she's just like, could never be more attracted to you as a husband. Meaning, what doesn't she have something to say about where you're going for the weekend trip? Well, of course she would probably have something to say, but it would ruin the trip for her. She wouldn't have the same attraction. She wouldn't have the same romance of not knowing where everything's going, because you as a man keep creating an element of surprise. And it just makes her nuts, like meaning excited the whole time. And you can be married 30 years and use this power as a man. Anyway, but this is not our topic. So I want all you guys, and if you're listening, you're a female, choose to be your gender. Okay. Did you guys choose to come to Jerusalem? Yeah. Did you choose to be there today, or did you just wake up here? Choose it right now, all of us. And I live here like full time. Like, choose it. You live here full time. Choose it. Oh, you're not living here? Where have you been living? Oh, sorry, but you live in Israel. Yeah. Choose it. The outfit you're wearing today, you chose it in a store. From the looks of most of you, you wore this when you slept last night. But did
I got it as a gift.
Anyway, choose it. Choose it. Okay, everyone, close your eyes for a second. Get in your body and choose it. Feel your body. Just feel it. Whatever it is right now. Your weight, musculature. Choose it. Open your eyes. Now, let's just say you should be a little thinner, or a little stronger, or a little more flexible, or a little more, what was the word I'm looking for? Forget. But someone who doesn't trip is balanced. Whatever. So it was another word. But you need to grow as an organism if you're overweight, or if you're not strong, or if you're not flexible, or if you're not coordinated. You need to grow in that. But you cannot grow in it if you don't first be where you're at. You have to start with where you're at. You have to start on the ground if you want to climb. And there's a mistake people make, is they want to grow so badly that they're thinking about the growth without actually being where you are. Be where you are first, and then grow from there. Whatever. Choose it. Got it? Number one, constant. Everyone say constant. Constant, yeah, is to be exactly where you are with exactly what you got. So I, for example, am hungry. I'm hungry. I didn't eat. Last night I finished dinner and then didn't eat. Obviously, after dinner I don't eat. And then this morning I didn't eat. And it's already 12 o'clock. And what I'm doing right now is replacing food with water by just staving off my hunger with sips of water. And I'm not complaining at all about my status right now. This is what is. I choose it. Choose it. After this, I will definitely go get something to eat. But you should know that our sages say that if you don't eat till midday, when you finally do eat, it's like throwing a pebble into a can. It's not going to do anything. I mean, you already messed up your day.
If you do it too early, it's also bad. Meaning,
I don't know when you're supposed to do it. They're just saying that intermittent fasting past midday, which in midday in the summer clock is close to 1 p.m., which is, you should get something in your mouth. Eat a banana or have an apple.
But if it's too early, then you're just a ball nefesh at that point.
Right.
Talks about the difference between like a Talmud Chacham and like a normal person, and like a normal person, like a Talmud Chacham is able to like push it off another hour. You're supposed to eat within like the first 4 hours.
Supposed to eat within the first 4 hours. Okay.
Preferably not. Really,
You don't want to do it before you pray.
Yeah, exactly.
Pray first. Okay, let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is reevaluation. Everyone say reevaluation.
Reevaluation.
Okay, so now say constant reevaluation.
Constant reevaluation.
Reevaluation is that the enemy to free will is momentum. What happens is we get into momentum of past choices, and we don't make new decisions. I mean, think about it. Let's say, for example, me as a Jew who is doing my best to keep Torah, and let's say I interact, I'll be on a flight soon, I'll be interacting on that flight with, let's say, someone who doesn't keep Torah. And since we're on a flight for 14 hours, so I have 14 hours to talk to this guy. Can you imagine someone sitting next to you and talking to you for 14 hours? I can't stay awake on flights. Second the flight starts going, I'm just like, but imagine I speak to the guy for 14 hours, and by the time we get to LA or wherever I would go, the guy's like, yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. This is the real deal. Torah lifestyle. Way to go. You think he could change his lifestyle?
Maybe it would take more effort than that. Because just agreeing to something is different than actually.
Yeah. So he may have philosophically reevaluated, but he's got so much momentum in one lifestyle that I would say within 3 days that it would be as if the conversation never happened. Because he'd go back, he's going back to wherever he lives with his spouse or his parents or whomever he is, and he'd be back in that situation. And meaning every, is a deeper topic, but every lifestyle has a narrative that are its philosophical underpinnings. Every lifestyle has a narrative, a story that's behind it, that is the underpinning of the lifestyle. You get that? So, for example, I live a Torah lifestyle, and the narrative I'm using is the Jews in Egypt who came out of slavery, and they got to Mount Sinai, and the Torah came to the Jewish people, and then ever since then, there's this like society of these Jews that keep these 613 commandments and all the laws, and that's my lifestyle based on that narrative. If you see a guy standing in front of a refrigerator, and all you see is the silhouette of a guy, he's got both doors open, and he's wearing his boxer shorts, and it's 2 a.m, his belly's hanging down, and he's like getting ready to munch. Yeah, 2 a.m. If you tapped him on the now, is that functional or dysfunctional? It's dysfunctional. But if you tapped him on the shoulder and said, "What the hell are you thinking? What are you doing?" Like, all that food's going to rot when you go to sleep. It's going to rot in your body. It's like you might as well throw it in the garbage can because it's not going to digest sitting in your stomach all night. And, because digestion sleeps, doesn't work while you're asleep. You can imagine how exhausted you'd wake up if your digestion was busy digesting while you're sleeping. You wouldn't sleep. You'd be busy digesting. So
Where did the food go?
the food just rots. It just rots. It doesn't properly digest. You know where it goes? It goes in the toilet in the end. But anyway, it probably gets stored. A lot of these people probably are storing the food for a few days. There's many people who have a 2-3 day cycle from mouth to toilet. That's probably the late eaters. And they probably have weight issues too. So anyway, I promise you this lifestyle that I just described, which was dysfunctional, comes with a narrative. If you asked him, what the hell are you doing? He'd answer you. He'd say to you, well, I can't sleep if I don't eat. And that's one story. It says who, or I'm very nervous, right? I'm having a lot of anxiety. What does that have to do with eating? Or he'd tell you that he's very hungry because he had dinner at 7 p.m. He was done by 7:30, and now it's 2 a.m. Okay, which would be ideal to have completely digested your food before sleep would be perfect.
Eat ice
That would be the best sleep of the week if you had fully digested your food. Most people go to bed still with something left to digest, because if you had protein for dinner, that's good 4 or 5 hours of digestion. And if you ate that at 9 o'clock, you're still digesting when you go to sleep.
And that's the thing with Shabbos. I would have to be starting my.
Forget Shabbos. Shabbos is out. The way you deal with Shabbos is caffeine in the morning. So, meaning you're going to feel drugged when you wake up and you just drink a little caffeine or a lot of caffeine. Next. So reevaluation is you have to be able to reevaluate your life. You have to be able to turn your life around on a dime. You might be looking at me like, you know what you should be asking right now? Ellie, you should say, Rav Yom Tov, if Martians landed while you were teaching this class, and we come outside the class and we're talking to real Martians, and they're fully in control of our planet, like they're showing us that, like, you know, you guys thought you were in control of the planet, like we're running absolutely every detail of this planet, we're running your lives, everything. And we're like, yeah, what about Mount Sinai? And they're like, they show us how they created the Mount Sinai thing.
So they would just be the angels of Hashem doing Hashem's will.
No. They're coming to tell us that this whole thing was created. We're all inside some kind of laboratory petri dish, a large one, but like, what they're basically saying, there's no God, there was no Sinai, none of this. Like, we created this. So your question would be to me is, do I go home and pretend this never happened and just go back to my Hasidic family in Jerusalem? Or is it like hell's bells, you know, let's party? So the answer is, and we learned this from Rashi, is that hell's bells, let's party. Which Rashi? When the Torah talks about kashrus, Rashi says that you should never say that pig is disgusting to you. Actually, last week's parsha. He said, don't ever say pig is yucky. You should say, I would love to eat pig. It's just that the Torah prohibits it. Because if you say it's yucky, then you lose your reward for not eating. If you're eating kosher, you lose your reward if you say it anyway you wouldn't have wanted it. Meaning, Rashi's telling us you're supposed to yes want it, but the Torah says no, so you don't do it. Since we're discussing this, I think in general that everything you want that you shouldn't do, you're wanting it shouldn't be the reason you do it. You understand? Meaning that the Torah is telling us you should want pork, should want bacon. The reason you don't do it is because God says. And so the same thing would be true. You should want sexual licentiousness.
Immorality.
Sexual immorality. Rashi, that's what he's saying. You should want to do that. But the Torah says don't do that. And so I'm using this poetically as a binyanav, as a foundation principle, that the only reason you're doing your Torah lifestyle is because you believe that it's true, that God is existing and Torah is Torah. That's why you do it. If you find out that Martians created this place, stop doing it. Stop keeping Torah. But until you meet those Martians, for sure, you know, we got enough evidence to know that there's a God. We got enough evidence to know that the Torah isn't some kind of religion. Judaism's not a religion. It's not some wishful thinking religious group. We are the direct descendants of people who witnessed everything it says in that book.
Is that on a conscious and subconscious level?
What do you mean?
Like you're saying, you have this programming.
Meaning maybe we're also programmed unconsciously?
Yeah, and if so, how do you reevaluate that? Without psychedelics.
If we're unconsciously, I believe that it is a collective subconsciousness, the Sinai thing. And I don't believe it's because of just being generational, because of all the generations that have kept Torah. But I'm not sure I understand what if you're asking a specific question or just fattening up the topic.
I guess it could go either way. Like you're saying, there's this underpinning that we have. So I know for myself, I feel like that there's a conscious story I'm following, and there's also very much a subconscious one. And it's not easy to always understand, but I can see through patterns in my life that I'm obviously following something that's in the background. So if that's the case, are there tips on reevaluating that side?
The tips would be not to reevaluate that. That's your inner instinct, and stay true to it. You can't always trust it, meaning if your inner instinct went against your conscious instinct, meaning stuff you actually know to be factual, and your inner instinct's going against the facts, drop the inner instinct. You're just one confused individual. You know, I meet people like this. I meet people who they know here that they're supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z, but their heart, their instinct, their inner unconscious instinct tells them to do that. And they should not do that. In that case, the head should rule the heart. But if your heart's aligned with the head, then lead by the heart. Why? Because you want to be as embodied as possible, and the heart's embodied. The head's not embodied. The head's up here. It's disembodied. So people who, I think there's an important distinction, because in the Jewish world, they're always talking about letting your head rule your heart. But that you only have your head rule your heart if your heart's unconscionable. It's meaning if your heart's leading you astray, which is what it says actually by the Tzitzis. It says, so you don't stray after your heart, after which you stray. You understand? Your heart will cause you to stray. But what if your heart is totally aligned with truth? Then follow your heart. If your heart now is conflicting with truth, follow your head. You got that? So it gives you a pretty good way to navigate. But a shame to be a guy whose head and heart are in the same place, but he's just a talking head. He's just stuck in his head, totally unembodied. Like an academic or a scholar. No one likes scholars.
What happens when each one?
They're not embodied. What's that?
What happens when each one claims they know the truth? Like your heart saying this is the truth, and your head saying this is the truth.
Definitely the head, because once you're saying it's true, what does it mean to say something's true? Saying something's true means it's got to be provable. It's got to stand up to a rebuttal. It's got to stand up to other testimony. You understand? Once you're using the truth word, now it's got to be able to withstand argument, right? If you don't want to use the truth word, then you can go with your heart. But once you are trying to figure out which one's true, what my head says and what my heart says, now it's got to be able to stand up to argument. And obviously, let's say this guy who knows X, Y, and Z is true, but he keeps going over to do, ABC, which is wrong thing to do. So, because his heart tells him to do it. So if that guy would actually talk to me, if he would say, hey, Rabbi, I'm really interested in ABC here, but my head says it's wrong. So I would say, well, tell me, why would you, what about ABC seems true to your heart? And I'll give you another thing is I bet you his heart's right. It's right about the wrong thing. For example, it might be a timing issue. You know what? You should go do that with A, B, and C, but you should do it once you're married and you're not ready yet. You're not quite ready yet. So you're absolutely right. Follow your heart, but not yet. Give it some time. So that'd be one example. is that your heart's absolutely right. Because chances are your instincts are good. Most people, your instinct, that first intuition is usually the right one. The problem is it, does it stand up to the head? To the head's test? If the head tests it and it turns out to be, no, it's really wrong, so then you're not in the time and place for that instinct to be able to be expressed right now. And so you got to put it off. But all of this is good news, though. Why? Because if you're not quite ready to do what your heart says, if you're not there yet, for whatever reason, now you'll get there, because now you see the goal. So now you got to get to work to get there. Okay, constant reevaluation means you have to be able to flip your lifestyle on a dime, which is extremely humbling. But to be able to flip your lifestyle on a dime. Okay, the third one is battleground. Okay, everyone say battleground. So constant reevaluation, battleground. Together, constant reevaluation, battleground. Okay, and what's the battleground? Battleground is the battle between, and it's exactly what we're discussing, so we can go very quick on this one. It's the battle between the body and the soul. You're in a constant battle between your body and your soul. So your body wants to do this and your soul wants to do that. In other words, my body has certain desires and my soul wants to do what's right. Okay, so we basically covered that. But what would happen if right now we're in the middle of a war. So there's all these battlegrounds going on in, for example, in Gaza. What if you wound up in a battleground, but no one told you it was a battleground? Like you forgot to look up when you were passing all the signs that you're entering a battleground. What's going to happen to you if you're in a battleground and you didn't know you're in a battleground? Okay, don't answer. You're going to die. You don't know you're on a battleground. You're going to die because you're not properly shielded. You're not taking all the precautions that you take in a battleground. You're just walking into a battleground. You're going to get shot probably by both sides at the same time just for being an idiot. So, anyway, life is a battleground. At every given moment, you can, I don't want anyone to go OCD on me, but in any given moment, you can up your choices, meaning to better choices. Life is a battleground. But let's just keep it real simple. Life is a battleground between the soul and the body. Just on a simple level, life's a battleground between the soul and the body. So let's just take a burrito, for example. So the body would like the burrito. The soul probably doesn't care that much about burritos. But the body does. And the body, the soul says, maybe we should wash, like a bread meal. Maybe we should wash on the burrito. But the body says, it's a thin wrap. Do I really want to wash on a burrito? How much of this meal is the bread part? Do I want to wash and say the blessings and do the whole thing for a burrito? Comes along the bread companies and they say, people are going to have a real issue with these wraps because they're not going to want to wash to use them. So people aren't going to eat our wraps. So what do? They add fruit juice to the dough to make the wrap a little sweet. Because if the wrap's a little sweet, just a little, like barely perceptibly sweet, but they make the wrap a little sweet, now the wrap is no longer has the bread name on it. You don't have to wash for it. You don't have to make the bread blessing for it. And you don't have to make the quite long blessing after it. Okay, does that all sound like soul or body? Body, yeah. We're going to actually change tortillas so people don't have to make long prayers over their burritos. That's body. The soul says, I don't want that version. I want the actual regular tortilla, and I'd like to wash for it. And then I'd like to concentrate on the blessing after. That's the soul. Okay, constant battleground soul. Sorry, constant reevaluation battleground. Let's say it together. Constant reevaluation battleground. And then the next one is the soul. Number 4 is soul. Choose soul. Choose soul. It'll never let you down. Choose soul. Meaning when you're in a point of like a real split where it's like the body wants this and the soul wants that, choose the soul. Just go with the soul. Whenever you're in that moment, go soul. Okay? And that's easy enough for us.
How do you know it's actually soul?
Well, if you're in doubt, ask somebody. But yeah, get married and ask your wife. She'll tell you. Okay, constant reevaluation, battleground, soul. I'll mention one thing, Ellie, one thing about the soul is that if you always soul and you ignore your body's going to come back with a vengeance. So when I say go with the soul, it doesn't mean forget your body. It doesn't mean quit the gym. It doesn't mean, don't eat your favorite foods anymore. It doesn't mean become a monk. It doesn't mean start fasting all the time. Soul just means that when your body's in conflict and going to hurt your ultimate purpose here, which is spiritual, you're here for a spiritual purpose. So if your body's going to hurt your actual purpose here, then you go with soul. Is that clear? So you're in a battle between body and soul, but it doesn't mean that you shoot the body and just go live in a cave somewhere. It's listen to the body. Unless the body's conflicting with the soul. When they're in conflict, go with the soul. Clear? Okay, let's say those constant reevaluation, battleground, soul. Ready? Constant reevaluation, battleground, soul. And the last one is the super Kabbalistic one, and that is God. Number 5 is God, and that is that, and it has a lot to do with constant. And this is the super deep one, and that is that to constantly choose to see God in all things. Think about it. Is there anything outside God? Can God create something he's not?
Actually,
Whoa.
he's that powerful that he can.
That was a pregnant pause.
It's hard to see God in some things.
Hard to see God in some things. Yeah, where is it hard to see God? How about in terrible events?
Holocaust?
Terrible events, yeah.
When you watch those movies, you just want like.
When I say God is in all things, I mean he's in this cup, he's in this water, he's in this microphone, and he's also in events. Nothing's outside God. Nothing.
So this is all God.
Everything's within God. If God can create something that he's not, so then he's no longer infinite because he ends and whatever he created begins. So if he's truly infinite, it means he's not just outside the finite, he's also inside the finite, which is a cool word of infinite, infinite. He's in the finite as well. We have different names of this in Hebrew. It's called Elokus versus, there's Elokus is how God fills creation, and then there's the Yud and the He and the Vav and the He, the 4-letter name, is how God is beyond creation. So we have beyond creation God, that's the tortilla, and then the Elokus is how he fills he's the rice and beans. He's both surrounding and filling creation. But that's the last level of mastering free will, is to be walking down the streets of Jerusalem like this. Do it right now, like look around this room. Seriously, do it, like diffuse your focus. It's called diffuse focus. Do you know what that means? Like right now, if you stare at this microphone, everyone stare at the microphone. So now it's acute or, direct focusing of the eyes. Now, move your eyes to a diffuse focus where you're not looking at anything in particular. You see it all, but you're not looking at anything. And now look around the room a bit like that, and you'll see that you'll feel kind of a strange feeling. And now recognize that feeling is God, meaning that this is all made of God ultimately. Yeah, it's a trip, right? And now see yourself walking down the street of Jerusalem and you're just kind of like, you see people like that sometimes.
I can picture the wallflowers.
Okay, now come back totally to focus. Come back totally to focus. Focus on me if you want, because I'm talking, but I don't care what you look at. Focus on it. But go back to that, it's all God, while maintaining total composure as a focused person, like you're in a business meeting. But you're like, recognize this is all God running this meeting. So if the meeting's starting to go south and it's not going to work and we're not going to close the deal, that's God saving you. If you're closing the deal, that's God blessing you, blessing the deal. Where like it's all God. So you can do the diffuse focus where it's just like it's all God and you're walking around the old city like, whoa. But now you can do the focus, but keep your mind, it's all God. And that's called walking meditation in Eastern traditions. But in Judaism, it's being in the free will of using your choice that you can constantly choose life in any given aspect, which was the first level of free will, constant. But you can use it for the fifth level, that everything's really made of God, and that you can constantly relate to that. Let's do all. You had a question? Yeah.
I had that feeling last time when I was at a concert with Mordecai and David. He was singing beautifully. It was my first time at a concert in my life, and I felt just singing about God.
You were sensing it. You were in it.
Everybody was.
Cool. Yeah, concerts are one of the best examples of death. Because when you die, you'll be in the vibrations of what's making this place. This place is all a digital simulation it's made of. But there's these worlds where the infinite light's being filtered out into the vibrations that we experience here. When you die, you go into that vibration. So what happens when you go to a concert? You go either into an indoor concert, ideally, but sometimes it's outdoor. But obviously indoor is the best because you're in a box. You're in a world that's got vibration, and everyone in the room moves to the vibration. Well, you just had your first death experience of what it's like. Yeah, I was once at a concert, and this chassid comes up next to me, and he says, "You like this?" And I'm like, "Yes." And he's like, "Well, wait till you get upstairs." So, let's go over all five. Well, let's say that all five 4 times, just so you have the class memorized, okay? So it's going to be, again, I'll repeat it quickly. Constant, reevaluation, battleground, soul, God. Okay, let's go. 4 times. Constant, reevaluation, battleground, soul, God. Constant, reevaluation, battleground, soul, God. 2 more. Constant, reevaluation, battleground, soul, God. Constant, reevaluation, battleground, soul, God. Okay, please subscribe and hit the bell so you get these announcements. And looking forward to more practical spirituality. And if you'd like it to do some kind of sponsorship, you can be in touch. And I'm findable on Rabbi Yom Tov. Yom Tov Glazer at Gmail. You can find me there if you'd like something mentioned on my classes or your company or whatever. Shalom, everybody.